Hey guys, in this video I'll be reconstructing my 23 FMC PB single that used domino reduction and half-turn reduction. The scramble is going to be on the screen if you want to follow along, but I did this entire solve on inversed, so I'll put the inverse scramble up as well. So the first thing that I want to do is edge orientation. On this FB axis there are 4 bad edges, here, 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 and here. I can solve EO really easily by doing L2U prime to set everything up to the front, and then doing an F or F prime to solve EO. In the solve I did F prime because it gave me a better continuation. Now the next thing I want to do is set up RZP, which is where you have the correct number of bad edges and bad corners. Right now I have 7 bad corners and 6 bad edges, and that's not good for domino reduction at all. But since my EO was only 3 moves, I can spend a few moves trying to get to RZP. And I found that doing a D L prime accomplishes that. So now I have these 4 bad corners and 2 bad edges. So I want to set up to a 4C 2E trigger. So I'm going to take a look at my cube and see what I have. There's this DR column here, this misoriented corner, this misoriented corner that's connected to this bad edge forming a bar, and yeah, that's it. So I noticed that I can do a U2, R2, and that moves this bar over here and this column up here, and then I can do a D prime to set up the DR trigger. So now when I do an R, U2, R, I have domino reduction. So now I need to do DR corner recognition. This one's really easy. I noticed I can do like U2, L2, and then U prime, and that solves all of the corners. So that means I have 1 quarter turn corners, and this is a really good DR. So I can actually do HTR off of this now that I know that it's a good DR. I'm going to hold my original DR on the side and find another axis to do DR on. I'm going to choose the blue-green axis. So if I look at my domino reduction from here, I have these 2 misoriented corners and these 2 semi-columns. So I can set this up pretty easily by doing F2, L2. So now I have 2 columns instead of 2 semi-columns. And then my bad edges in the E slice are here and here. So I'll set up this column on top by doing D2, B2, U. And now that solves HTR. So at this point, I just want to solve as much as I can really. And I found that rotating back to original orientation, then doing R2, D2, B2, R2, D2, B2, leaves me with a 2E, 2E. And from here we can just sticker the cube and go to insertions. I've already stickered this cube here, so I'm just going to go back to the beginning of my skeleton. Oh yeah, it's worth mentioning that I'm doing an inverse skeleton. Since I did the entire solve on inverse, there's no point in creating a normal skeleton and then doing a normal insertion. I thought it would be a bit faster and easier to just stay on inverse the entire time and switch back to normal at the end. So this is the inverse scramble, and I'll just go through my skeleton. After this D2 here, I noticed that I've set up this 2E, 2E, which can be solved in 6 moves. But I know that the move that I did right before this was a D2, and the one I'm doing right afterwards is a B2. So I want to try to find a variation of this algorithm that can cancel as many moves as possible. So the one that I found was this, D2, B2, U2, F2, U2, B2. So that cancels the B2s at the end, it cancels the D2s at the start, and it'll cancel the U and the U2 at the end. So this is a 6 minus 5 2E 2E insertion. So if I just finish the rest of my skeleton, the puzzle is solved. Now that we've written out our entire solution on the inverse scramble, we can just invert everything to go back to the normal scramble and have our final solution of 23 moves. One of the great things about DR and HTR is that you can solve edge insertions with very few moves. The 2E that I had in the solve was solved in just one extra move with a 6-5 insertion, and you'll get that kind of stuff a lot when you do DR and HTR. One more thing that I want to mention is that after I did my 11-move domino reduction, the rest of the solve was optimal. I checked with Nissi and a +12 was the best I could do. I'm pretty happy with the solve because I was able to find a fairly efficient DR pretty quickly that also had good corners, and I was able to do a good HTR finish as well. So yeah, that's it for this reconstruction. Thank you for watching and goodbye.